Well, this is a first for me because I've never used this camera before or done a vlog or done anything really. So first thing to do is to thank John for letting me have his old camera because he's got a new posh one, and to Steve for giving me the idea of doing it over the lockdown period. I thought it would be nice to have a record of things because I don't know how much longer I can ride. So many thanks to Steve's Hornet 900, and so we'll have a look hopefully at one of the bikes that I use all the time, or a fair bit of the time. Apologies for camera shake, and also if I haven't got things quite into the frame, but as I say, it's an experiment. So there we are. That's a Suzuki 1300. It's it's an old one. I like old bikes. For some reason, modern bikes don't really interest me at all. But this one's in the classic bike territory. It's 15 years old now, and so it's peanuts to insure. And it's also an example of a bike that I really liked when it first came out, the Generation 1 Suzuki Hayabusa. And so when I had to part with my big Honda Tourer because it was too heavy for me, I thought, well, I'll get one of these. Yes, it's fairly heavy, but the weight's very low, and because of that you don't notice it when it's on the move. I hope I can get the detailing in, but as I say, I'm unsure of both the camera and my abilities. Done a fair bit of work over the winter period. One of the things I did was fit these sliders. You can see the polished aluminium slider just down here. I had to cut the fairing to fit that. You know, to do a decent job you do have to cut the fairing if it's going to work, and so that took me a fair time to do accurately, and you know, it looks okay. Also drilled and tapped it, as you can possibly see, to fit these little satin black spot lamps on the front. They don't really I don't want them to be noticeable, so they fit in quite nicely. Many years ago there wasn't very much traffic on the roads, and what there was, it wasn't very fast. But these days times have changed, and I really think that extra lighting, particularly on motorways, is important. And so I fitted the 2 extra spot lamps on this one because I noticed in the car that you could really see bikes with the headlamp and the twin spots. I noticed it first with the adventure bikes, and they really can be seen. So I thought, well, that's a good wheeze. We'll have a go at that. So I put the extra lighting in over the winter period, and I've fitted, apart from the fairing sliders, there's also a lower case slider down the bottom there, and on the axle there we have sliders down there. It's not so much for accidents as if I dropped the damn thing pushing it around, because it is quite heavy. So hopefully that'll save a lot of messing about. One of the first things I did to the bike was fit plastic bungs where the holes were in the frame, because it looks nicer in my opinion. And I fitted a hugger, and you can see the remnants of the front end of the chain guard to just try and stop some of the chain splash. You know, you get fling on chains regardless of what you use, oil, grease, anything, it flings. And to that end, on the hugger, which is, you know, next to useless really for chain fling, I put an extension small plastic extension on the back end. It's probably a bit dark, but there you go. Just to help with the chain fling, and it does work. The back wheel doesn't get so mucky. Also, one of the things I did was to fit the baffles back in, because I prefer a quieter machine myself. And coming up again, we can see I fitted a standard Rentec, I think it's Rentec carrier. They're normally black, and during the winter I took all the paint off and polished the aluminium up, put 2 grab handles on here for my partner, and a backrest. And the backrest comes from an old top box, and it was easy enough to fit. Just had to make a steel plate on the back and bolt it all up, job done. I put heated grips on this bike because I will be using the fairing, the bikes with the fairing during possibly the autumn, so I didn't get the Oxford one, I got another one, and I'm very pleased with it. I think the Oxford one's a bit more expensive. We have sat nav, had that for quite a few years now. That's got me through Europe a time or two. And yes, I know you can put your phone on, but that one has a Bluetooth through to speakers in the helmet if you so desire. Otherwise, the bike's as standard as I can sort of make it, really. Put a fender extender on, but they're never low enough. I don't know if you can see in there, it's probably too dark. But anyway, it keeps some of the muck off the radiator. Probably doesn't do anything to the aerodynamics, but that isn't going to bother me at the speeds I run. I've put a little power output socket here for anything you want to plug in, so that can be quite useful. Other than that, hopefully it's fairly standard. It's a bit on the mucky side. I've been using it, so there are bug splats. And extra lighting on the back with cheap Chinese strips. Put 3 of those on to get extra lighting. I put a couple of LED bulbs in here in the back instead of the tungsten ones, to try and improve it slightly, which it does. That's about it, really. It's it's in quite nice nick. It's not as nice as I would have liked. People don't seem to look after bikes as much as they used to. Easy come, easy go, I guess. Anyway, it's fairly low mileage. It's 14,500. This one seems okay, although you know what it's like. You're on a bike, you hear every rattle. But yeah, it's a nice bike. It's a very comfy. For me anyway, I find it quite comfy. I can do 100 miles on it without any problem. You need a break after 100 miles, but then you do on most bikes, I do anyway. I find it really a nice bike to have. You don't really need to swap cogs. 6th gear will do you from, well, 30 to 130 or more without any problem. The torque is phenomenal on this thing, which makes it very easy to ride. People seem to think fast bikes are tricky to ride. Nah, they're okay. You just have to not be too stupid. I know the red mist does descend sometimes when you get the odd BMW or a motor car that gets in the way, but generally speaking, it's you just trickle along 55, 60, no problem at all. And it's also very economical, amazingly. I did a check on it and found that it used less petrol than my Mile Firestorm, which was a 1000cc V-twin, which was a bike I liked very much, actually. Wish I'd never got rid of it now sometimes. Yeah, so there we are, one standard Hayabusa. Generation 1, which I think is the prettiest, not everyone's cup of tea. It's in a colour that I love, and it's in fairly good condition.